Hello folks, I hope everyone is having a great day. The Lost World Jurassic Park famously, or some might say infamously, has a third act where the male tyrannosaur gets loose in San Diego after a botched attempt to return him and his infant to Jurassic Park, San Diego. I enjoy it, and many fans of the film do too. However, it wasn't the original ending for the film. The original third act was very different, having the action stay on Isla Sorna, and that's what I want to talk about today. For this, I'm going to be referring to the first official draft of The Lost World by David Koepp that is available online on DailyScript. While the action of the script mostly follows the original draft and film, there are a few changes present from the off, which I'll be covering also. A lot of the concept art for the film features some of these original scenes as well as the Topps 1997 tie-in comic, so I'll include them as we go. So, without any further ado, let's dive into the original ending for The Lost World Jurassic Park. So first things first, aside from the major ending change, there were a lot of other differences in this draft to the final. While not all of them really matter, like lines of dialogue playing out differently, there are some that are relevant and offer more depth to the characters they affect and are worth covering. Going in chronological order, they are: the deleted scene involving the board is present in this draft, however Hammond is also there via video link and witnesses Ludlow's betrayal firsthand. The scene also mentions the destruction of Nublar, so that still stands in this version, hence the tagline, "Something has survived." Roland's deleted introduction is also present and unchanged, but more relevant to this draft in the third act, particularly his philosophy.
The true hunter doesn't mind if the animal wins.
Malcolm doesn't meet Lex and Tim at Hammond's house, and isn't explicitly in a relationship with Sarah, although they are mentioned as being close friends. Sarah is also an animal behaviouralist in this draft, like her novel counterpart. Her introduction is a direct adaptation of her introductory scene in the novel where she is observing hyenas in Africa. Since she's not already on the island, Malcolm's motivation comes after his chat with Ludlow, where he seeks to repair his reputation. With Sarah not being a paleontologist this time, a new character called Dr. Judson is present in this draft of the script as the group's paleontologist. A lot of his dialogue ends up getting reused for Sarah in the next draft of the script, but, rather funnily, he serves as a rival paleontologist to the InGen team's Robert Burke. He seems to be based off the character of Richard Levine from The Lost World. For the purpose of this video, I'm going to use footage of Jonathan Bailey as Henry Loomis, because I can. Once on the island, aside from the stegosaurs, the group also encounters mamenchisaurs mating and barely escape in time. Looks like David Koepp has been trying to get mating dinosaurs in this franchise for about 20 years. The InGen team also have a more grand entrance, with planes dropping the vehicles and mercenaries onto the island in a direct contradiction to Sarah's antiseptic research policy. The scene with the pachycephalosaurs ramming the jeep is also different, with Dieter being targeted by them and forced to hide underneath like Sarah in the novel, until Roland hisses at them like a badass and they scatter. Dieter is also shown to be more cruel to the dinosaurs, shocking a netted Corymphosaur once it's sedated. Sarah also recognizes Roland when they are spying on the camp, saying that he and Ajay hunted jaguars in Brazil with spears as it was immoral to do it any other way. She calls him a philosopher as well as a hunter. As I mentioned in my Lost World video, Ludlow is responsible for breaking the baby Rex's leg, but here the interaction is slightly different. Still drunk on some good single malt, he gets the idea to take it back to the mainland and leans in too close, getting headbutted and breaks its leg in anger as Roland chastises him. Roland's rifle is also a keepsake from his father. Malcolm joins Sarah and Nick as they sabotage the hunter's camp, leaving Kelly in the care of Dr. Judson. Since San Diego is not present in this draft, neither is the idea for Jurassic Park San Diego. And instead of giving a pitch to board members, Ludlow is instead conversing with Burke about where to get more infant dinosaurs as the camp erupts in chaos. Nick still rescues Junior and convinces Malcolm to help set its leg as they take it back to the trailer. Roland notices commotion on the ridge. Back at the trailers, the high hide is only a few hundred yards away, so Eddie, Kelly and Judson can see everything happening. Malcolm is present for the setting of Junior's leg as the others in the high hide hear the buck and the doe and try to warn them, not by phone but by radio in this version. Sarah sings Born Free to the Rexes as they give Junior back, which is caught on camera by Nick, and they decide to call the expedition done, right as the Rexes fuck up the trailers. The rest of that scene is the same, except you actually see the Rexes charging and then leaving when the trailer is suspended over the cliff. Eddie's death plays out in roughly the same manner, but instead of Roland helping Sarah up, they appear after they've climbed up themselves, shepherding Kelly and Judson with them. There's a bit of an argument at the cliffside, including Judson and Burke, before they move to the hunters' camp and plan to head for the village. A few notable changes are that Judson explains what raptors are, Dieter thinks he could take one in a fight, and Malcolm says they don't stand a chance, having more experience than any of them, to which Roland simply says, "You weren't with me at that time." The Lindstrad rifle also survives the car, and Malcolm has it, ironically as he and Roland share a deep chat along the way, instead of Roland and Nick. I like to imagine what they would have looked like both carrying their rifles, but anyway. Malcolm tells him about Gambler's Ruin, saying that bad things tend to happen in streaks and they're all in some deep shit now, and also says he should never have had kids, that he is out of his depth. Kelly hears this and it hurts her. After Roland tells him the Everest story, Malcolm goes on a nihilistic rant about humans causing the extinction of the planet, and Roland grabs him, telling him to shut the fuck up, lest he cause a panic among the group. The next sequence plays out similarly, with the group taking a break and Dieter going for a fatal poop. A few changes. Nick is the one who convinces Roland to take a break, Burke and Judson are still bickering, and Burke finds a dinosaur egg and takes it, like a proto-Billy, but for very different reasons. Malcolm is focused on his vindication, making sure their tapes are okay at the expense of Kelly, which Sarah calls him on. She also tells him that no one will believe their story unless they drop a dinosaur in the middle of Times Square. Nick doesn't tamper with Roland's rifle this time, and perhaps more importantly, the blood on Sarah's shirt hasn't been noticed either. The rest of the sequence is the same, with Dieter getting jumped by compies and the group not noticing until after he's dead. This is where the major changes start to appear in the draft. So now that we're all caught up with the minor changes, let's dive ahead with this draft, as Roland notices Dieter is missing. Roland, Malcolm and Sarah ask Carter how long Dieter has been missing. Instead of looking for him, Roland writes him off, saying he's already dead, and moves the group on, much to Sarah and Ian's shock. When they stop again at the ridge, Ian tries to talk to Kelly, but she patches him, hurt from his earlier words. Roland and Ian study the satellite photos and deduce the location of the worker village. Roland gives the group 2 hours rest before they head on. We cut to night, where the camp is set out in much the same way as the final film. Sarah and Kelly share a tent, and Kelly is still angry at Malcolm. Sarah hangs her shirt up, the still unnoticed blood wafting in the wind. Since he's already with the group and never left, Roland is getting some rest. Until he sits upright, sensing a change. Ajay has also stopped in his tracks, saying he feels something. They notice smoke rising from the edge of camp and discover Burke trying to fry the dinosaur egg. They manage to put it out as the thumping of the Rex footsteps begins. The Buck arrives and inspects the tent in the same way as the final film, except in this draft it stands up, ripping the tent out of the ground with it before the chaos erupts. The doe appears and the hunters wake up, panicking. Roland tries to grab his rifle, but a Rex steps on his tent, driving it into the ground. Roland screams at the hunters not to run, but they knock him over in their panic. Nick rescues Sarah and Kelly and flees with the hunters as Malcolm, late to the party, desperately looks around for them. Roland scrambles up the side of the ravine and calls Malcolm to him, attracting one of the Rexes. It nearly gets Malcolm, but Roland hauls him up just in time by the hair, removing some of it in the process. The ravine chase begins, with Malcolm and Roland following the group above the cliff, Malcolm shouting out to Kelly. Both the Rexes chase the group in this draft and get a few more kills, slamming one hunter into the rocks and throwing another one into Carter, who meets the same fate as the final film. Nick notices the waterfall and drags Sarah and Kelly through. They get a minute's respite before Burke, having seen them, charges through too, leading the doe once again. This time, instead of a milk snake, Burke is being a pure heartless bastard, forcing himself further back into the cave and pushing Kelly out closer towards the doe, when a wall erupts and tons of bugs fall onto him. He jumps back into the doe and dies the same as he does in the film, with Malcolm and Roland watching this time. The long grass scene begins, with both of the Rexes stopping at the edge, calling off the pursuit. Ajay again tries to warn the others, ultimately following them, trying to get them to turn around. Roland and Malcolm emerge onto the cliff overlooking the plain and try to warn the hunters too, but they're too giddy at their escape and pay them no mind. The raptors appear and the massacre plays out the same. Except this time, Ajay, a short distance behind the other hunters, realizes he too is trapped with 4 raptors closing in on him. He closes his eyes and Roland turns away, pained. The survivors regroup at the remains of the camp, consisting of Malcolm, Sarah, Kelly, Nick, Roland, Ludlow, and Dr. Judson, who wasn't present during the chase. Kelly is catatonic while Roland and Malcolm find their weapons still intact. There's a cool moment of dialogue where Roland asks if Kelly can walk and tells him to travel lightly to the worker village. As they gear up, Roland finds a Rex footprint with pee in it, scooping it up into his canteen, much to Ludlow's bemusement. He also grabs some ash from Burke's cooking pot, shoving it into his pocket. So in this draft, Roland and Ludlow join the journey to the worker village with Ian's group. They pass through a more substantial Valley of Death, featuring more dinosaur carcasses, and make it to the worker village. As they head towards the operations building, they notice some hard purple lumps in the street, which Malcolm can't identify. They reach the operations building, and Roland sprays the place with the Rex urine, marking it as their territory to deter any other dinosaurs, and tells them to hold up. If only this was Jurassic Park 3, we'd have the damn Spinosaurus showing up for a fight. But that's not in this film, so that doesn't happen. Roland says he's going to hunt the buck, having seen Rex tracks in the Valley of Death, and not to wait for him. Ludlow, thinking they can grab Junior and keep InGen afloat, goes with him, handing the radio frequency to Nick. No Ajay's bag moment or plot element needed in this draft. Malcolm asks them if they really have to do this now, and Roland responds with,
Rex just fed, so he won't stalk us for food. My point is that predators don't hunt when they're not hungry.
No, only humans do.
Those lines are both originally used in this moment, with Nick responding as Ludlow loads a magazine into a semi-automatic rifle. Nick and the others manage to get the radio working and call for help, as 5 velociraptors walk into the village. Roland and Ludlow follow the Rex tracks to a stream where they hear something eating up ahead. Roland pulls out the ash and uses it to determine they are downwind from the animal. They sneak up the river and find the buck and some compies drinking. Ludlow breaks a fucking branch because of course he does, and Roland turns around to chastise him as the buck, now alerted to his presence, disappears while Roland's back is turned. Further on, Roland finds the trail ends between a rock and a boulder and scatters more ash, realizing they are now upwind. The boulder opens an eye, revealing it to be the buck, and gets up silently behind them, looking down at them. Its breath alerts them, and Ludlow starts freaking out while Roland tells him not to move as the animal has already fed. The buck examines Ludlow and he thinks about turning and shooting it, but Roland tells him to let it go, that the animal won.
True hunter doesn't mind if the animal wins.
Roland's theory proves correct as the buck turns away from them, satisfied. That is, until Ludlow, desperate for the baby, turns around and tries to shoot it, only to be jumped on by the buck and carried away in its jaws, just like Dogson does in the novel. Roland tries to get a bead on it as it runs away, but it disappears before he can fire. In the communications room, everything starts to vibrate as the rescue helicopter arrives. They look around for a place to land as the group runs out onto the street. They see the helicopter landing on a building further down and run towards it. As they do, Sarah notices more strange grey mounds and realizes that they're actually bird shit. They stop to investigate quickly as a raptor jumps on the fallen tree right behind them, unnoticed. They take off again as the raptor pounces and takes down Judson. A second raptor appears, leaping over Sarah to join the kill. Poor Judson, killed right before the final hurdle. The group scatter, with a lot of the sequence playing out the same but different. Sarah is the one who hides in the car and runs to a building, and Malcolm has the addition of the Lindstrad rifle at the gas station, trying to aim it at the raptor as it attacks. Nick scoops him up and they run as Sarah finds herself in the kiln shed, following the same sequence as the film, except Kelly isn't there in this draft. Sarah climbs out onto the roof as Nick hauls Ian into a desiccated hotel. Nick thinks the door will hold as a raptor breaks it open in a reference to the final sequence from the novel. Malcolm manages to get the rifle up as the raptor jumps on him, clamping down on the barrel. Malcolm fires a dart directly into its throat and kills it, only it takes the rifle with it and he can't get it out of its jaws. Pretty much how it goes down in the novel, but with a different character. Nick tells him he thinks Kelly is with Sarah, which we know is wrong, but we see where Kelly is, hiding underneath an overturned shed as a raptor stalks the street in front of her. Malcolm and Nick make it to the roof of the, for some reason now burning hotel, and use a downed power line to crawl across. I don't know why the hotel is on fire, the script doesn't actually say. A raptor reaches the doorway on the roof, but refuses to go outside, suddenly scared. It retreats as Malcolm and Nick notice Sarah alone. She then goes through the roof sequence, which is pretty much exactly the same, with Sarah then falling through the building out onto the street. She runs towards the building with the helicopter, seeing Nick has already made it, and Malcolm has jumped down looking for Kelly. He rescues her from the shed and they run. Sarah reaches the roof with Nick as Malcolm and Kelly run to a water tower with a raptor in pursuit. They climb up and Kelly walks along a pole to the roof. Malcolm tries, with the raptor close behind, but falls off the beam, crashing into a maze of pipes below and breaking a rib. With him now exposed to the raptor, Kelly uses her gymnastics to kick it mid-jump and yeets it back out onto the street, though she doesn't seem to kill it in this draft. Kelly hauls Malcolm to the roof as another raptor climbs up. They run for the helicopter, but the raptor is faster, leaping at them. Suddenly, a gunshot rings out and the raptor falls dead. Roland has found his way back and he stands there, using his 2 bullets to save them. The chopper's rail starts to fall through the roof as it collapses. The group scramble on board, but Kelly falls out, through the roof, and lands roughly in a mound of hay and leaves, quickly discovering that it's a nest. Malcolm tries to climb down to her as a pteranodon unfolds itself behind Kelly. The chopper gets caught in the roofing and Roland kicks at the pipes, asking for a ladder as Malcolm climbs down to the pissed off pteranodons. A second pteranodon appears from below. The rope ladder reaches Malcolm and he grabs it, along with Kelly, climbing up and aboard as the pteranodons break through the roof. The helicopter tries to take off as the pteranodons grab the skids of the helicopter, dragging it away from the nest, and then let it go. Malcolm holds Kelly close and says thank God for her, a direct change from saying he should never have had children and concluding his arc with Kelly. The helicopter flies away as the pteranodons, who were only protecting their nest, give it an escort for a while before pulling away, with one of them flying in front of the moon in what would have been a really cool image. It's at this point we cut back to Ludlow's misadventures. He falls free from the buck's mouth and realizes he's in the nest with Junior and both of the adults. His death goes on a bit longer this time, with him trying to crawl away a few times before the buck breaks his leg, and then Junior makes his first kill proudly in front of both parents. We then begin the epilogue, which opens on a cemetery, specifically a funeral. John Hammond's funeral. Malcolm and Kelly stand a short distance away. It's here that Lex and Tim spot him, and after the ceremony is over, they approach. Lex tells Malcolm that they want to tell the world about the dinosaurs, but Malcolm dissuades them, telling them that if it does go public, the dinosaurs won't be around for long, and that just because people don't know about it, it doesn't mean it's not real. His narration takes us back to Sorna, where we see the pteranodon roosting and squawking up at the sky, where we fade out. So that's the alternate ending to the Lost World Jurassic Park, with many things playing out differently, but still the same with the addition of Dr. Judson. There's a lot that I love in this. I love seeing Roland's arc coming to full conclusion and basically achieving his goal and losing to the buck, instead of him basically giving up after Ajay's death. I think the one we get in the film is powerful. He realizes it just isn't worth it anymore. But here, he gets the chance to prove himself and we get some Rex hunting in the jungle. We also see more of the Rex nest in this one, and Ludlow's death basically mirrors Dogson's from the book, minus the gore and the inclusion of more babies. I like the inclusion of Dr. Judson, but I can see why they wrote him out and just gave Sarah the paleontologist role instead. He's another character to keep track of, and although he would have added another death to the Gatherer group, one that would have added quite a punch, I think they made the right choice giving most of his dialogue to Sarah. Malcolm's motivation is stronger in the final film than this draft, another good use of Sarah in the final film. He gets his redemption, exoneration, and his career back, instead of letting the island remain a secret. I also prefer he and Sarah being a couple. I do like his doomsplaining to Roland and using direct quotes from the novel, as well as Roland's response. I love seeing the joining of the scenes in the Rex chase and the long grass, and you can really tell what points they had to change in order to work in the San Diego ending. I actually think the change improves some scenes, with Ludlow making his drunk pitch to the InGen board instead of just talking with Burke. It adds a little more to the scenes that were changed. I really wish we had gotten some version of Ludlow breaking the baby's Rex in the final film, whether it being on purpose or by accident, as the final draft of the film shows us. I also wish we had gotten Ajay's death. He was a pretty major side character and important to Roland's development. Ultimately though, the ending amounts to an extended raptor chase with an extra kill and pteranodons as a climax. I remember reading a quote from David Koepp years ago in the making of the Lost World book, that he was thinking this draft of the film would leave audiences thinking, yeah, that was good, but not as good as the first one, and that San Diego added more to it. I have to agree, as the implications of the San Diego incident carry on into the future films. I think my ideal version of The Lost World would include all the scenes I enjoyed from this draft in the final film. What do you think? Do you think the original ending is better than the one they filmed, or do you prefer the San Diego ending? Either way, let me know down in the comments down below, and I'll be back with more videos soon. As always, I'm Stumo, and I'll see you on the next one.